Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ashley Randolph Show here at Glow Premies Podcast and on Roku TV. Today, I have lovely Victoria here with me. Victoria, is that okay if I call you by that?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. I know some people like their last names used, so I should have asked that first. Thank you for coming and gracing your time with myself and everyone watching here. I just want to know one important question before we get started, and I'm sure it's going to lead us into the whole conversation. I know you know that I'm a health advocate, and everything about health is like so passionate for me, including diabetes and premature birth. Everything just comes together. So, what does health mean to you? Because to me, the only word I could come up with is everything. So, how would you define health?
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. And I think that's a really important question. I think it means a lot of things to different people, but based off of what I get from my clients, I'll tell you that people will say, I haven't been feeling well. I went to the doctor and I got these labs, and my labs were normal. So then obviously, we cannot define our health by a set of labs. So when I look at health and I have a client like that, I'm looking at, what does the nutrition look like? How are you sleeping, and do you have relaxation practices? And exercise, movement, how do you manage your stress? And what is the quality of the relationships around you, right? Because all of these things determine how you relate to people emotionally, how's your spiritual well-being? All these things matter. So when we look at what is health, it's not a sheet of paper and just labs. You have to look at all these important things that we do on a daily basis.
Which, I have so many lab reports, even for myself, even just when I was pregnant alone, it seemed like every week I'm looking at new lab results. It's like 1,000 numbers on there. So I have to say, kudos to you for learning what they all mean, how they affect someone whole entire body. I forgot to ask you something.
Hmm.
You got to tell us about you, where you are, what you're doing right now, your own business if you have one. That's more important than the definition of health. How do we even find you? So like where are you from? What's your background? And what do you have to offer to all of us, which I'm going to tell everyone now is amazing.
Well, that I'll start with my background. So I'm half Venezuelan, American. I was born in Venezuela, raised here. Yeah. And so I have that background. I speak Spanish, bilingual. And then I went to medical school, did residency in internal medicine. And then when I was in my training, I realized, there's a piece missing here, right? People come into the hospital, we fix them up, and then we send them out. But there's no like, now what, right? Like, what do we do now from here? And that kind of, that was something that was just like, felt like it was missing for me. So then I started looking for other resources, and I found integrative medicine. So I did a 2 year in integrative medicine, and then I've done some training in functional medicine, because there are additional labs that we don't do in conventional medicine that we can do in functional medicine that help us kind of dive a little bit deeper to find the why, right?
The root
Um,
cause of everything.
exactly. It's the root
Mm-hmm.
cause. And so that's what I practice. Root cause medicine. I have a telehealth business, which, hopefully in the next few weeks, I'll have like an office space too, so people can see me virtually and also in an office space. Um, and that's what I'm doing now. And I think it's like really important, because I know one of the things you and I had touched on when we first, started discussing this was healthcare today. And, someone comes in and they have high blood pressure, and we say, okay, here's this pill. Okay, that's really important because high blood pressure can be dangerous, right? So, yes, let's control it in the moment. But when you give someone a pill, that should be a temporary bridge to working on the other things, right? Like, why do you
Mm-hmm.
have high blood pressure? Are you stressed? Are you overweight? Are you eating the wrong things? And I think
Mm-hmm.
that we use medications as like a crutch. Like, okay, well, I have high blood pressure. That's it. I'm just going to take this
Yeah.
pill forever. Except you're not really addressing the why. And also the secondary effects that you can get from not only that one blood pressure medication, but then all the other medications that you're going to get from other providers.
Mm-hmm.
Like they
That
do
you
have
may
something,
even get from that one medication because some of them have
right?
side effects, causes other problems. So from long-term use, which is why
Yeah,
I love that you said it's supposed to be temporary while you fix the root, because that's how you end up with these long-term illnesses and problems going on. Because you weren't supposed to be on that medication for 12 years. It was supposed to be like a
exactly.
year. Fix your problem, change your food and your diet, exercise. I know a woman who changed her whole entire, now I'm going to ask you about this too, because this is what she told me. She changed her whole diet. She added vinegar, I believe it was, or apple cider vinegar maybe,
Yeah.
to her breakfast, like I guess in her drink or something in the morning. And she started walking just around the block. And she said within like 6 months, she didn't have high blood pressure anymore. So, do you know if anything like that would even work, or why would something like that even work?
And that's a good question. I think that you can say there's different things at play, right?
Okay.
Definitely changing your diet's going to help. Now, the apple cider vinegar is a cool one because there is, I forgot her name, but her Instagram account is like Glucose Goddess, and she has a PhD.
Hmm.
And one of the things that she did was study how to help people control their blood sugar level, right? Your blood sugar level and your insulin levels can affect your blood pressure. And uh, and so by
Mm-hmm.
drinking the apple cider vinegar before meals, you're actually kind of like taming that response, right? You're not decreasing the level of spikes.
Yeah.
And so once your blood sugar is better controlled, that can also improve your blood pressure. Add sunlight from her walks, right?
Mhm.
Because we minimize the need that we have for sunlight and the fact that she was walking, right? And that's the thing I always emphasize is like movement. People think that like when I say exercise, that they need to be like deadlifting and like throwing things up in the air.
Right.
No, it's consistency, right? So if you're gonna go for walks and
Every
that's
day.
how you want to move, that's also gonna have incredible effects, not only on your blood pressure, but also on your mood.
Okay. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that could definitely
Everything.
have happened and been of benefit for her.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I asked you because she did tell me that, and I always wanted to ask someone, and I just remember now. So thank you for that. um, so what else can you help us with? I know we have 1,000 numbers on our lab reports. So, for our families out there who did not go to school, I was going to school to be, I was 2 semesters away from graduating pre-med before going to med school. So I was studying the MCAT when I got
Oh
pregnant with my
wow.
first preemie, and I mean, devastated is not the word, okay? I just knew I was going to get a good score on that. Um, so for, excuse me, someone who does not know anything about lab reports, what would you say would be like the top 3 to 5 that people should always just look at just because? Like I know for I had a gentleman ask me before about like his white cell counts and the red blood cell counts and were those important? And I told him, which I'm sure you're going to tell me too, it depends what the problem is what you look
Right.
for. Um but I always wanted to know, maybe there is some that you should just always check no matter what. So do you have any
Yeah,
suggestions?
that's a great point. So you're absolutely right. You know, if you're looking at white blood cells and red blood cells, I mean, if I'm not, it depends what's going on, right? So those are like, I focus on that a lot in the hospital. But when I'm seeing someone in the clinic, these are the things I think that we should really be focusing on. It's one is your cholesterol, right? But
Okay.
not the normal cholesterol panel. I think that a lot of people have family history or have high cholesterol. And you want to be looking at like the other markers, not just like they give you like four numbers, your cholesterol, your HDL, your LDL, right, and your triglycerides. But you also want to look at like particle size, right? Because the small particle sizes are the ones that cause more damage to your heart vessels, So you want to
Oh,
look at particle size as well. And then there's a marker called like LP little a, which shows your genetic predisposition to having cardiovascular disease. So I think that if you have a history of high cholesterol, you want to ask your doctor, I think it's called NMN. It's like the lipid profile.
okay.
Insurance will cover that, especially if you have high cholesterol. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's just not something, truthfully, that we learned in medical school. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's something that came out after the fact. And so not a lot of people like are
I
comfortable
know
like
that.
interpreting that, but it's something that's available, right?
Okay.
The other one that I think is important is fasting insulin, which a lot of doctors also don't really check in conventional medicine. I check the fasting insulin just because it tells me if you're insulin or not. And
Mm,
you can be insulin resistant years before you actually develop diabetes.
no way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
did
so
not
like,
know that.
yeah, and that's crazy that we don't check it more, right? So like less than seven, I mean, they say less than five, but let's just be conservative here. Let's say less than seven is where you want to be.
Okay.
And I have like young people who have like a fasting insulin of like 38 or 19, and they're not feeling good and they don't have diabetes yet. But I'm like, this is the
Borderline.
problem, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't you want to catch that ahead of time and just know like what you can do to
Mm-hmm.
stop that? So I think that's another thing you can ask your provider. What they're checking now is an A1C, right, which is also for
Yes.
diabetes. I think that that one's important as well. Again, like once your A1C is high, you've been insulin resistant for a long
Long
time.
time.
And then I would say that the other one, um, those are for metabolic health mostly. And then I think one of the things I like to add on, which insurance doesn't like to cover, and it breaks my heart, is like the vitamin D level, right? Because
Oh, I
vitamin
know.
D has so many important functions in your body. There are so many
Mm-hmm.
studies correlating like autoimmune disease with low vitamin D, cancer, Alzheimer's, like, and whether
Yeah.
or not like people want to believe in that, vitamin D still plays a critical role, right? So I am so heartbroken that that's such a
Yeah.
hard test for me to get for people, unfortunately, but it is
Mm-hmm.
very important.
And I don't know if a lot of people know, but a lot of preemies come home on a vitamin D prescription.
Wow.
But I also know that a lot of parents don't use it because they
Mm.
really don't understand how important it is for their baby. So, I'm so glad you brought that up because I forgot to even bring that up myself this month for
Yeah.
Prematurity Awareness Month. So, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, vitamin D is crucial. I know I had drops for all three of my preemies, and I remember getting it for
Wow.
Aiden, and when I got it, I was like, what am I doing with vitamin D? Like, is that milk? Because that's what you're just
You
thinking
think,
of,
yeah.
like what? He's getting enough milk. He's on formula, and half
Mm.
breast milk. Like, why does he need this vitamin D? But then I learned that no, there's like a whole total other list of things that vitamin D covers. And you don't just get it from milk, you get it from the sun and everything else that a lot of people don't talk about. So thank you for bringing that up. That was awesome. Um, anything else you could think of?
The last one I'll add is like a high sensitivity CRP, right, which is a
Okay.
marker of inflammation. I think that just gives you, it's like non-specific, but I think it gives you like a good idea of, maybe I need to change my diet and start eating like some more anti-inflammatory foods.
Mhm.
Or man, if I don't get this under control, if your high sensitivity CRP is over 4 and you're not in the hot sick, then you probably really need to like tone it down and
Okay.
reevaluate some things because your risk of like cardiovascular disease goes up with
Mhm.
the level of inflammation. And when I say cardiovascular disease, I'm saying like heart attack, stroke,
Mhm.
like these are all things we want to avoid.
Absolutely. You're speaking to the choir. Give you a quick background on mine. My mother passed away at 50 at 2019 from seizures.
Oh, wow.
Walked all the time, controlled her blood pressure. She had seizures that started when I got pregnant with my first preemie in college. They said it's stress related. And she tried to do everything right. She still passed away at 50. Never smoked, never drunk anything. tried to live a holy life. She was amazing. Now, my dad, on the other hand, did everything. Smoked cigarettes, heavy drinker, um, you name it, he did it. Now, he started having heart issues at 34, which I am now. So at my age currently, he had his first triple bypass.
Oh,
He
wow.
had three triple bypasses before he passed away. About it was my mom died January 2019 and my dad died February 2020. He had a heart attack in the casino in Vegas and died. So to me, and he eats pork, he ate the barbecue, he ate the salty foods. And then my mom, she stayed away from all that. So she was eating salads and eating healthy. And then they both passed away at the same age, roughly 50, 51. So for me, lab results is everything to me now the last few years because I know what genetics can bring to you as well, as long as what you're doing your own self. So, with someone like me, which is so common with other African Americans, especially in our communities, high blood pressure, hypertension, diabetes, glaucoma. I have glaucoma at 34.
Oh,
I
wow.
already have it. I've been borderline diabetic since I was probably about 10 or 12. They never told me my markers, but they've always told my mom that I was borderline diabetic, even though I was as slim as can be. So that from a young age, I knew that weight doesn't have to be the only reason why you have diabetes. So I've always
Correct.
known that. So I have not officially been diagnosed with diabetes, thank goodness. Um, but I do know I have glaucoma and my eyes are getting like worse. So they're telling me I need to get the drops and stuff now. And I'm like, I'm not even 40 yet. Like the only thing I don't
Yeah.
eat is fish. I don't like fish. So I stay away from that. But I take my vitamins. I try to, get 8 hours of sleep if I can. Um, we have a water rule in my house, so only water and only 100% fruit juice, no sugar added or very little. Um, yeah, it's like I still see, the health is starting to go downhill. So, what do you say to someone in the African American community that has parents who both already have what we've been looking at all day at this conversation to help save them?
Well, so this is a really, really good point that you're bringing up, and I'm glad you brought it up. Because that's another thing I hear, and it's okay, well, I have a family history of diabetes, so I'm going to be
Mm-hmm.
diabetic. Not necessarily, right? Like just because you have a predisposition, they say, like this is the expression I've heard, genetics, like load the gun and then fire, the environment pulls the trigger,
Oh,
right?
that's a
So
good one.
yeah, it took me a second to remember, but it is a good one
Hmm.
because it just tells you that you can have a predisposition to something and not get it. And so I say that there's, environmental factors, unfortunately, that are at play more so than we realize. Um, Even if you're trying to eat healthy, one of the things I'll tell you that I see a lot working with clients is there's so much hidden sugar
In
in our
everything.
food. It's in everything. And the
Yeah.
worst part is I think like there's 70 different names for sugar. So you're looking and you're like, okay, cane sugar, cool. But if you don't finish reading the label, there's like another four
Yep.
types of sugar in there. So you're probably, so the sugar, the processed food is actually terrible for you. I'm glad that you say you have like a no soda rule in your house. Because
Mhm.
soda is another one. There's like 20 teaspoons in just like one can. It's
It's too
crazy.
much. Yeah.
So I would say the first thing is to like reevaluate your nutrition, right? Stay away from processed foods. What I tell people, it's like the easiest thing to remember. If it's not from the ground, you shouldn't eat it. There's no Cheetos
Okay.
on trees,
Yep.
right? So so
Right.
you shouldn't eat it. And the other thing too is also, I mean, the food is important, but exercise, right? Like how are you doing your movement, right? Increase it as much as you can because these things are protective. And weight management would be very crucial as well, especially if you have a predisposition to high blood pressure, things like that. I will tell you, I read this study this morning, funny because it's
Oh.
before this, which was so scary to me. It says, so they're looking at five markers: high blood pressure, high cholesterol, They're looking at weight, the blood sugar, if I didn't say that. Yeah. And then the presence or the absence of cardiovascular disease, 5 markers.
Okay.
Less than 7% of Americans are considered to have good cardiometabolic health, meaning that they have none of those issues.
What? That's it?
Yes, less than, so that's super scary because the stuff that you're talking
Yes.
about, then my point with that is like, that's showing you that it's more than genetics, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's environment at that point because there's no reason that less than 6% of Americans are,
Okay.
yeah, like that's not. So to your point, you really, really, really have to be, it's a course. Like that's the stuff that I talk to every single client about is like, let's learn how to read food labels because in
Mm-hmm.
reality, nobody is like watching or like regulating things. You can have like, oh, healthy, whatever, or all natural, this and that.
And
But
there's
that doesn't
nothing
mean
natural.
anything. And it's not
Mm-mm.
natural and it's not healthy. So if you're just going to trust, right, that the food industry is taking care of you, you're
Mhm.
just out of
Yeah.
luck.
Yeah. My son teacher, oh, I loved her, Miss Williams. In fourth grade, she made the whole classroom take 2 weeks and learn how to read food labels and explain to them what it is. I will be forever grateful. So he's in seventh grade now. And no matter what I buys, he will take it out, turn it around, and look at the bag and read them ingredients still to this day. So I think that's something that everybody should learn. I'm glad
Yes.
that you offer that. That's really, really important.
Yeah, it's important. And then the other thing, if you look at seed oils, right?
Hmm.
Canola oil being one of them, which I know a lot of people
Yep.
use still, like these seed oils are really inflammatory, like very inflammatory. And I believe to environment, this is like another thing that is increasing our rate of chronic disease, right? Because it's in everything that and every time you go to a restaurant and you get French fries or whatever, like
Yep.
it's likely oil and they're reusing the oil. So you have to just like think about all these things, which is a lot to think about, but you can at
But
least
it'll get
control it at
easy.
home,
Hmm.
right? If you can't control it outside, control it in your home.
And that's interesting because I've been seeing less of canola oil at stores, but I still, so it's like you'll
Yeah.
see a whole section and then it'll be like a little 2 rows or something where you'll see canola oil, but it used to have a whole section too by itself of vegetable in the
Yeah.
vegetable oil. So you're right. Oh, wow. I did not know that. So
Yeah.
it
I
is
use just
inflammatory.
little, like avocado oil is good for cooking at high temperatures, right? You can use coconut
Okay.
oil too. Ghee is very good. And then, olive oil. But if you're cooking
Yeah.
at high temperatures, avocado oil is a good one. Just,
I have never used avocado oil. I have about 3 bottles of olive oil in the house. I
okay, good.
always grab a jar, always. Um, okay, that's good to know. Oh my goodness, thank you. So resourceful. I'm so glad you went to med school and then you went and took them extra years because you're really getting to the root of everything. And I know you said you took a course for that called Root Cause, I think you said.
So it was a 2-year fellowship with integrative
Hmm.
medicine, and then I did functional medicine as well.
Now, how was that for you? Was it eye-opening compared to what you learned at medical school? I assume it had to be.
Yes, it was. It was. I changed a lot of things in my life based off of what I learned with integrative and functional medicine. Um, just because you just don't learn that. And I'll give you one example with the functional medicine course. Like my mom has Hashimoto's, right, which is an autoimmune disease. And I was on birth control for the longest time, right? They put you on it. You have irregular periods, here's birth control. You have cramps, birth control. You have acne, here's birth control. Like everything is birth control that. And in med school, that's all you learn. A woman comes to you and she's having hormonal issues, you put her on birth control. Then I take my medicine course. And it's just like, okay, you're depleting yourself of minerals and vitamins because you're not absorbing them when you're on birth control. It increases your risk of autoimmune disease. And I'm sitting here like, wait, I went to med school and I didn't know this. Like, how is
Mm.
this something that I'm learning now? And then I came off of the birth control, and what a roller coaster it has been to get my hormones back on track.
No way.
It has been a roller coaster. And I hear that from like a lot of women, and not like
Yeah.
I'm not bashing birth control. I think it's important and very necessary,
Hmm.
but I think that there's not just one way
To do
to
it.
have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like the thing when you go see a doctor, you should know all your options, which I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And you should also know like, hey, like this is what can happen with each one, which I also
Mm-hmm.
didn't. Even being in medical school, I didn't know that.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
to your point, I learned so much in those and that I have now started applying. And the other thing that when you look at health and something I thought about when you were talking about your mom and your dad,
Mm-hmm.
it's also how we metabolize toxin, right? And things in our
Mm-hmm.
body, because our detoxification pathways are going to vary from person to person, right? And so then
Okay.
you have to think, right? Because there are a lot of people that you know that like to smoke forever and nothing
Yep,
happens to them.
nothing.
They probably have really great detoxification pathways. And so it's like, how do you enhance that? There are tests that we can do in functional medicine to see, like, hey, what's the level of buildup of toxins in your body? And these are the things that we can do to help enhance your body's detoxification of X, Y, and Z, right?
Will insurance pay for that, or is that something you may have to pay out of pocket? Because that sounds intriguing and like somebody needs to at least check out.
Well, so I know one of the tests is called like a Dutch test. That's hormone related, but you can also see
Hmm.
your detox pathways with that, which would be important for anyone who has a predisposition to breast cancer or any of those types of cancers, because you can see how you're metabolizing the hormones. But I know that in the Northeast, those tests will be covered. Florida
Okay.
does not cover it. I know you're in California, so I'm not sure, but
Mm,
California is pretty
okay.
progressive. So
Yeah.
Say it with me. Cow, 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 cow.
The women of my family always love this time of year because they get to cook their favorite recipe. I love to cook with my mom. You can always find me in the kitchen with her. About 2 years ago, things changed though. It became normal for us to also connect online.
You're not coming. My whiskey on ice is melting down. My blood is running. Heart's beating fast. I'm counting down. You have 3 minutes. My whiskey on ice is melting down. My blood is running. Running. All for you. All for you. Think it's safe to say we're
meditation, affirmation, and prayer.
Hey, Holly, here's a good question.
What is it, Charlie?
Do elves get gifts too?
Yeah, a day off.
No, we give each other gifts as well. Isn't that right?
That's right.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Okay, that's sounds good. I always tell everyone I suffered from hyperemesis gravidarium when I was pregnant with all three kids. Lost 30 pounds, never gained weight. The doctors told me multiple times that I was 1% of all pregnant moms that got that sick, and that chemotherapy was the only medication that would help me. But I refused to take the medication because obviously the side effects were worse on the fetus than me just taking it to stop throwing up. So the first one was in New Orleans. I was a senior at Xavier for biology, pre-medicine, with a minor in chemistry, and going to Tulane for public health at the same time when I found out I was pregnant for Aiden. And I immediately left about 6 months pregnant. I left there because the doctor told me from a blood draw that Aiden looks like he's going to have every abnormality that you could think of from this blood test. I mean, he said cleft lip, too many chromosomes. We don't know how he's going to be. Even told me I should have a late term abortion. I was like, excuse me? No, I just dropped out of school for this child. I'm not getting rid of him. So, came back home to California. They never gave me any further testing in New Orleans or here in California. Aiden was born with, he has to wear glasses. He has really bad vision, always has. And he has mild ADHD. But no cleft lip, not too many chromosomes, none of that. He's too smart. So in fourth grade, he already had a seventh grade level. So he's in seventh grade now, and everything's boring him because he's now at like a ninth or 10th grade level, of course. But it's just so weird how, they could see one lab result and then make a huge determination without doing further testing, which is why I love that you said there is more testing that you can do. It may or may not be paid for, but you can always look further, and you kind of just have to advocate for yourself. It just goes back to advocating.
Well, and advocating for yourself is a big thing I encourage people to do. I think a lot of times people are scared to ask questions, but it's your health. You're entitled to ask questions. And actually, as a physician, it bothers me when you ask someone like, hey, why are you on this medication? Because my doctor told me, right? Like I would not take anything unless I know exactly why I'm taking it and, what it's going to do, because this is your health, right? So ask questions. It has to be a conversation between you and a practitioner. Even if they look like they're rushed, that's not your problem. You need to know what's going on with you.
Absolutely. And I agree 100%. They get, remind me, has it changed? I know that insurance pays, I believe you're supposed to get 15 minutes or 30 minutes with your provider.
Oh, no. It's 15 minutes if they're running on time. Right. And so that's also, when I have with my clients, we have like an hour. Like I know I have an hour and we're going to talk about, because it's not enough time to also get to know like what's going on in their life. Are they stressed about work? They're having trouble in their marriage, their libido sucks. Like nobody's going to tell you these personal details that are relevant for their health in 15 minutes.
In 15 minutes. It's like so rushed. Like they literally come in, ask you a few questions. How you been? You may get how you been. And then you get the list of questions, and they'll check your blood pressure and everything that, I'm sure a nurse has just done prior. And then they're like, okay, well, I'll see you next time. And you can go to the front and book your next appointment. And so it happens so fast. It's like you don't even have the time to make a connection with your physician because it's literally in, question, out. So I'm glad that you do the hour. Kudos to you. That's amazing. I know your clients are in the best hands. Is there any other tips you have for us before I let you completely take it away and brag all about yourself?
Well, I would say, don't WebMD everything, okay? Because
Yeah.
that freaks people out. I
Yeah,
would
please
just
don't.
say that just start with the foundational things, right? Like
Okay.
health, we make it seem super complicated, but it's really not. Make sure you're sleeping right. If you're not sleeping correctly, let's see how we can adjust that, right? Maybe you need to go to bed earlier. You should be getting at least 8 hours. The other thing is nutrition, right? And if you don't know where to start, there's a lot of resources online on, like anti-inflammatory diet and eating better. And you know what? It doesn't have to always be organic because like, yes, organic in certain situations. I don't know. So there's a website called like it's ewg.org and they have like the dirty dozen and the clean 15. There are foods that are not organic that are still healthy because even if you're not eating organic, whatever you buy that's fresh is going to be better than the burger you're picking up on the way home,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And even the
So,
vegetables they put on it.
exactly. So just, to be mindful of that and then to have some sort of relaxation practice and an outlet. I think community is really important when it comes to your health. And if you're trying to do everything on your own, the effects of stress can not only make you feel ill, but it actually affects your hormones and contributes to the inability to lose weight and some other things. So I just say start with the foundations and you don't have to make it complicated. So that's my tip.
I forgot to ask you one last question.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving is coming up. What is one dish that you can think of that they can take off the table and replace with a healthy alternative?
That's a good question.
I wasn't supposed to throw you off.
When you said that, I was thinking like the stuffing is like the
Okay.
first thing that comes to mind. But I'll tell you this because I am gonna have a post on this on my Instagram, but it's gonna be also food pairings, right? If
Ooh.
you eat your vegetables before you eat the carbs, right? So you eat your vegetables and then the protein before you eat your carbs, the fiber from the vegetable is going to decrease the insulin spike and the glucose spike. And that matters because the higher you're spiking, if you're going up and down, if your glucose is going like that, you're causing inflammation, actually increases aging process, right? So for the people who are vain, like you don't want that.
Yeah.
So I would say, like just limit the
Okay.
carbs. And if you're going to eat carbs, start with the vegetable first because it actually decreases the spikes. And I've actually had patients where I tell them like, hey, eat the vegetables first. And just by doing that one thing alone, not exercising, just eating the vegetables first, they'll lose weight.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay. When you put that on Instagram, you're gonna have to find me. Glow Preemies founder. I am going to like copy that and share you on everything. Okay. Oh my goodness. Yes. That sounds like something that we should have thought about a long time ago, and it's so simple,
Yeah.
but we don't talk about that.
We don't talk about it. And there's one more thing I'll say about that
Mhm.
is walking. Even if you walk 10 minutes after eating, that can also help like decrease the spikes. Your digestion obviously improves. And that's another way that you can just 10 minutes, just walk 5 minutes down that way, 5 minutes back this way, and it'll help with those insulin spikes and can help you lose weight.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for everything. You are so needed in this community, like everywhere. So I'm going to say the virtual community so you can touch as many people as possible. Thank you for all the tools you gave us today. You gave me more than I can even imagine. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Tell everyone where we can find you and any websites or any links you want to promote and any plans for next year that you may want to share.
All right. Well, my Instagram is at Healthful Roots MD. I think that's a good place to start because I also give like information. I'll do videos. So if you're interested at all, you can just go there and I'm happy to discuss things in the comments or people DM me with questions. So that's a good resource. People can email me at info@healthfulrootsmd.com. Also happy to discuss anything there. I do have a website, which is the same, www.healthfulrootsmd.com. And then as for plans for next year, so I work with a health coach. So all my clients work with me and a health coach. And we're starting a group coaching program. And it's really going to be like a foundational program for people who are wanting to get like into better health and have not had success, but just because you don't really know like where to start. We're going to go over nutrition, movement, stress relaxation practices. It's going to be really good. And then you'll get to work with a health coach because she's really good at motivating people or helping people find like another perspective, right? Where people feel stuck, like I can't do it. She can help you reframe, right? Which is really important because your health journey can be rocky, right? So then to have someone who can help you reframe. So that's going to be something that we're going to be starting to sign people up for. And they're going to get a one-on-one with me prior. And, that helps me gauge where people are and then just like give them personalized attention before we jump into the group journey together.
2023 is going to be a good year for whoever invests their time into this. I will say, everyone who's listening, remember, if you do take this course, you actually follow through. So learn the information and actually implement it into your life and use it. We're going to change America and how we all look. I'm glad you brought that up earlier about 7% of people don't have anything. I mean, literally, yeah, that is an environment problem and that's an America problem. And we can't depend on our government for everything. So, yeah.
You have to have some level of accountability. And one of the cool things about the program is that everyone who signs up is going to get a continuous glucose monitor. And it doesn't hurt. I promise I've done it. There's a video on my Instagram. But that way, people can kind of see, right? Like, oh man, I ate this and look what happened. And that, I think when you have data in front of you, it helps you make meaningful changes. So that's going to be another aspect of the program, which will help people improve their cardiometabolic health.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't even test their glucose until it's too late or there's an issue that arises. So thank you for that. That is amazing. It does not hurt, you guys. I have not had one done on me, but my grandmother has. So I know that I asked her and she was like, no, it doesn't feel like anything. So thank you for everything. I'll make sure to put your links and everything into the description and in the video. And do you have any last words before we say goodbye to everyone?
No, I just hope people reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, and if you guys want to, if you don't see the info in the description, even though it will be in there, feel free to message me and I'll give it to you again. There's no problem with that. Now I do have a question. We are worldwide. So, do you specifically only work with America and U.S. citizens, or is it whoever? Because you have Venezuela in you too, so and we do have some in Venezuela. So I do know that we have people watching there.
Yeah. So for my one-on-one clients, because I'm only like physician-wise, I'm only licensed in Florida. So then I can only see currently clients in Florida. Hopefully that expands later. But for their group coaching program, and that's available to anybody who can sign up.
All right. Thank you. Inclusion matters. So I'm thankful for you. I will make sure to help promote this. Any flyers that you guys have for next year and your programs, please send it my way and I'll share it on my LinkedIn and social media and everything for you. And we are grateful once again for you being here. Everyone, this is our episode for today. It was the best episode we've had in a long time. I will say that I'm going to go ahead and just title this, What is Health? I think that is perfect. Just what is health? And I thank you for being here and shedding a little light to not just myself, but others.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me. I love talking to you since the first time.
Yeah, and if you need anything or want to come back, you're always free. Feel free to come back. All right,
great. Thank you.